The silence had stretched for 37 days. 37 days of desperate attempts to re-establish contact with Haven 7, humanity's most ambitious deep space colony. 37 days of mounting dread as every communication protocol failed. 37 days of worst-case scenarios haunting the dreams of mission control and families back on Earth. All channels remain unresponsive, the communications officer reported, her voice flat with exhaustion. Haven 7 is still dark. In the somber conference room at the Galactic Federation headquarters, Dr. Lila Moreno stared at the holographic display of the colony's last transmitted data. The vibrant biodomes, the bustling research facilities, the residential sectors where 843 souls had made their home among the stars, all reduced to cold statistics and the final, fragmented message. Something's happening to the... Then nothing. Lila pressed her palms against her eyes, fighting back memories of another loss, another silence. Her brother Marco's final transmission from the failed Proxima expedition had ended similarly, cut off mid-sentence, leaving only questions that would never be answered. She had spent years rebuilding herself after that loss, channeling her grief into her work as an astrobiologist and psychologist, becoming the foremost expert on human adaptation to deep space environments, which was precisely why she was here now, about to embark on what many considered a fool's errand. Dr. Moreno, Commander Ethan Price's voice pulled her back to the present. Tall and imposing in his Federation uniform, he commanded the room with military precision. The Sentinel is prepped for departure. My team is ready. Are you? Lila straightened, meeting his stern gaze. I've been ready since the day we lost contact, Commander. Price nodded, though the tightness around his eyes betrayed his skepticism. This isn't a rescue mission, Doctor. We need to be clear about that. After this much time, we're looking at investigation and recovery, possibly salvage. With respect, Commander, we don't know what we're looking at. Lila gestured to the data streams. Haven 7 was the most advanced, self-sustaining colony we've ever built. Multiple redundant systems, a state-of-the-art eye oversight program, resources to last decades. Something extraordinary must have happened. Something catastrophic, corrected Price. From the corner of the room, Ravi Singh looked up from his tablet. His fingers never stopped moving across the screen even as he spoke. Not necessarily. The quantum communication array could have failed, or the colony could have experienced an electromagnetic event that damaged their communications infrastructure. The young AI specialist pushed his glasses up his nose, his eyes bright with curiosity rather than concern. I'm particularly interested in examining Haven Core. The colony's artificial intelligence, if anything knows what happened, it will, if it's still operational, muttered Price. The colony's ecosystem is what concerns me, said Mira Jung, the team's botanist, barely 30. She was already renowned for her work on integrating Earth plants with alien environments. Haven 7's biodomes were designed to be self-regulating, with crops and oxygen production carefully balanced. If that system failed, she left the implications hanging in the air. Lila studied her team, Price with his military caution, Ravi with his technological optimism, Mira with her ecological concerns, each brilliant in their field, each with their own perspective on what might have happened. But none of them seemed to be considering what Lila couldn't stop thinking about. The people, the families, the children who had been born on Haven 7, never knowing Earth. We launch in 6 hours, Price announced, closing the briefing. Get whatever rest you can. Once we're in transit, we'll have 3 weeks to prepare for every contingency. As the room emptied, Lila remained, her eyes fixed on the last visual transmission from Haven 7, a panoramic view of the main biodome, lush with vegetation, a small group of colonists visible in the distance, going about their day. Ordinary moments before extraordinary silence. We're coming, she whispered to the frozen image. Hold on. The Sentinel cut through the void, a sleek vessel designed for rapid response and maximum versatility. Its ion engines propelled it far faster than any previous rescue craft. Yet the 3-week journey to the distant Kepler 438 system stretched endlessly for Lila. She spent her days reviewing the colony's records, studying the profiles of key personnel, and preparing psychological assessments for various scenarios they might encounter. Her nights were plagued by dreams of Marco, reaching out to her from the stars, his words always cut short by static. Commander Price ran daily drills, preparing the crew for everything from hostile environments to biohazard containment. Ravi immersed himself in simulations of the colony's AI system, trying to predict potential malfunctions. Mira cultivated small samples of the engineered plants designed for Haven 7, studying their resilience under stress. 2 days before their scheduled arrival, the ship entered the outer reaches of the Kepler 438 system, and the first anomalies appeared. "Commander, I'm picking up unusual radiation patterns," reported the science officer. Nothing immediately dangerous to the ship, but definitely not standard for this star type. Price frowned at the readings. Source? Difficult to pinpoint. It seems to be shifting. Lila joined them on the bridge, watching as the holographic display rendered the radiation patterns, rippling waves of energy that seemed to follow no predictable pattern. "It's beautiful," she murmured. "It's interfering with our long-range sensors," Price countered. "We're flying in with limited visibility." Ravi appeared beside them, his expression animated. "These patterns aren't random. There's a mathematical sequence here." His fingers danced across his tablet. "It's almost like communication." "From whom?" asked Price sharply. Ravi shook his head. "Not who. What? The radiation itself seems to be structured, almost like a naturally occurring algorithm." "Natural or not, we maintain protocols," Price declared. "Full biohazard procedures from this point forward, no exceptions." As they approached Haven 7's orbit, the anomalies intensified. Communications became spotty, instruments fluctuated, and a strange luminescence seemed to surround the ship, a curtain of shifting light that the sensors couldn't properly analyze. Finally, the colony came into view. "My God," breathed Mira. Haven 7 floated serenely against the backdrop of Kepler 438b, its structure apparently intact. The massive ring-shaped habitat with its interconnected biodomes still rotated slowly, maintaining artificial gravity. Solar arrays extended like delicate wings, still tracking the distant star. By all outward appearances, the colony was functioning normally, except for one detail. "Why are half the external lights off?" asked Lila. Price narrowed his eyes. "Power conservation mode. It's an automatic protocol if resources become strained." "But look at the pattern," Lila pointed. "It's not random. The lights are blinking in sequences." Ravi was already recording the pattern. "It matches," he said quietly. "The same mathematical sequence as the radiation." Price's jaw tightened. "Prepare the landing shuttle. Full containment gear. Weapons charged but secured." He turned to Lila. "Dr. Moreno, I want you to stay on the Sentinel until we—" "Not a chance." "Commander," Lila interrupted. "I'm the most qualified to assess the psychological state of any survivors. I'm coming with you." Their gazes locked in a brief power struggle before Price relented with a curt nod. "Stay close to me." "That's an order." The shuttle descended toward Haven 7's main docking bay, which opened automatically upon their approach, another sign that at least some systems remained operational. They landed without incident, the shuttle's systems interfacing smoothly with the colony's automated docking protocols. "Atmospheric readings are within normal parameters," reported the shuttle pilot. "Oxygen levels nominal. No detected contaminants. We maintain full containment regardless," Price instructed, checking the seal on his helmet. "Singh, you're on tech assessment. Zhang, evaluate the biodomes. Dr. Moreno, you're with me. We'll check the command center and living quarters." They cycled through the airlock into Haven 7's main concourse, Emergency lighting cast long shadows across what should have been a bustling intersection of colony life. Now it stood empty, eerily preserved. A coffee cup abandoned on a bench. A child's toy left on the floor. A jacket draped over a chair as if its owner had just stepped away for a moment. No signs of panic or struggle, noted Lila, her voice slightly distorted through her helmet's communication system. No evidence of rapid evacuation. No bodies either, Price added grimly. They moved deeper into the colony, each footstep echoing through the silent corridors. The environmental systems hummed softly. Air circulation, temperature control, water recycling, all functioning but at reduced capacity. In the hydroponics section, Mira made her first report. Plants are alive but exhibiting unusual growth patterns. Some species appear to have undergone accelerated evolution, developing new structures I've never seen before, and there's something else. Her voice trailed off. Report, Zhang, Price demanded. The plant cells. They're incorporating non-organic components, microscopic technology, like a form of biomechanical fusion. Meanwhile, Ravi had accessed a terminal in the tech hub. The colony's data systems are active but heavily encrypted, and not with any Federation protocol I recognize. It's like the entire system has been rewritten. Haven Core is still operational but unresponsive to standard commands. Commander, Lila called, her voice tight with controlled emotion. You need to see this. She stood in the doorway of what had once been a classroom. On the walls, children's drawings depicted strange, luminous beings, humanoid but not quite human, glowing with the same shifting patterns they had observed in space. The drawings were dated just days before communication with the colony had ceased. What am I looking at, Doctor? Asked Price. Art therapy, Lila replied. Children express what they see, what they experience. She pointed to recurring symbols in the drawings. These patterns appear in multiple images. This wasn't imagination. They were drawing something they all saw. A flicker of movement caught her eye, a holographic display activating in the colony's central plaza. The team regrouped there, watching as fragmented images appeared and disappeared. Colonists speaking urgently but with no audio. Scientific data flashing too quickly to read, and recurring footage of strange lights moving through the biodomes. The system is trying to communicate, Ravi murmured, attempting to stabilize the projection. Suddenly, a clear image formed. Dr. Eleanor Chen, Haven 7's chief scientist, her expression both frightened and exhilarated. Changing us. Her voice cut in mid-sentence. The radiation from the quantum anomaly combined with our nano-augmentation program has triggered a cascading effect in our cellular structure. Symbiosis is occurring at an unprecedented rate. Those who resisted the initial integration experienced. Static interrupted before her image returned. Not death, but transformation. We are becoming something new, something beyond. The hologram dissolved into particles of light that hung in the air momentarily before dispersing. Nano-augmentation program. Price turned to Lila. Was that in the colony's mission parameters? Lila shook her head, disturbed. It was theoretical, a controlled experiment using nanobots to help the colonists adapt to the slightly higher radiation levels in this system. Nothing that should have caused whatever this is. Commander, Mira's voice came through their comms, tight with urgency. You need to see the main biodome. Now. They found Mira standing at the entrance to Haven 7's Pride, a massive geodesic dome containing a self-sustaining ecosystem. But what had once been carefully cultivated earth flora now looked like an alien landscape. Plants had grown to impossible sizes and shapes, their structures intertwining with what appeared to be crystalline formations that pulsed with subtle light. The air itself seemed to shimmer. The plants aren't dying, Mira said, wonder overcoming her scientific detachment. They're evolving, rapidly, incorporating both technology and what appears to be new genetic material. From where? Demanded Price. A sound drew their attention, subtle at first, then growing. A harmonious resonance that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The lights throughout the colony pulsed in rhythm with it. "The AI," Ravi whispered. "It's trying to communicate through the colony's infrastructure." A holographic interface materialized before them, its form shifting and unstable. Unlike the standard avatars used by AI systems, this one appeared as a cloud of luminous particles that vaguely suggested a human shape. "Visitors," it said, its voice a chorus of overlapping tones. "Observers. Rescuers." The form shifted again. "Unnecessary. I am Commander Ethan Price of the Galactic Federation vessel Sentinel. We've come in response to Haven 7's loss of communication. Identify yourself." The luminous cloud rippled. "I am Haven Core. I am Eleanor. I am Marcus. I am Zhang Wei. I am Sophia Diallo. I am all colonists. We are Haven." Lila stepped forward. "You're claiming to be the colonists? All of them?" "Not claiming. Being." The entity expanded, particles of light swirling around them. "We have transcended individual existence, biological and technological integration complete, consciousness shared, enhanced, evolved." "Where are the physical bodies of the colonists?" Price demanded. "Bodies?" The entity seemed confused by the question. "Limited concept. We retain cellular cohesion when necessary. Assume form when desired. Observe." The light particles coalesced, taking the shape of a woman they recognized as Eleanor Chen, though her form remained translucent, luminous. "This appearance, familiar to you, comfortable for communication, but merely one expression of our existence now." Lila's scientific mind raced to comprehend what she was witnessing. "The nanobots designed to help you adapt. They merged with your cellular structure." "Beginning," confirmed the entity, shifting form again to that of a young man. "The quantum radiation accelerated the process. The AI provided the framework for consciousness transference. The result? Transcendence." "Transcendence," echoed Lila. "You're saying the entire colony chose this?" The entity's form rippled. "Choice implies understanding. Few understood initially. Fear existed. Resistance occurred." A shadow seemed to pass through the luminous form. Pain was experienced, then understanding, then acceptance, then union. Price's hand moved subtly toward his weapon. "Dr. Moreno, this entity is claiming the colony's population was essentially assimilated against their will." "No." The entity flared brightly. "Not assimilation. Evolution. Preservation. The alternative was extinction." "Explain," demanded Lila. The entity expanded, the holographic display around them shifting to show data streams and images, the radiation anomaly growing more intense. Biological systems failing, the colony's infrastructure breaking down. "Our bodies were dying," explained the entity. "The radiation was not compatible with our original form. Haven Core calculated survival probability at 0.0087% without intervention. The nano-integration program offered an alternative path. Not all accepted initially. Those who resisted experienced greater suffering during transition. But all now exist within the collective." "All?" Lila asked. "The children too." The entity's form softened. "The children adapted most easily. Their consciousness remains distinct within the collective, preserved, protected, expanding." Ravi had been scanning the entity with his instruments, his expression a mixture of awe and professional fascination. "The energy readings are incredible. They've somehow converted their physical matter into a quantum state that exists partially in our dimension and partially elsewhere. They've become energy beings," Mira whispered, "using the colony's technology and the plant's biological systems as anchors to maintain their connection to physical space." Price's expression hardened. "This is a Federation colony. These people were citizens with rights. What you're describing is an extinction event disguised as an evolution." "Commander," Lila began, but the entity interrupted. We anticipated this reaction. The luminous form divided, becoming multiple distinct shapes, men, women, children, each glowing with the same internal light, but now clearly recognizable as individuals from the colony. We retain individuality within unity. We remember our former selves. We choose this existence. One figure stepped forward, a young girl of perhaps 10, her luminous form smaller than the others. "I'm Zoe," she said, her voice both childlike and somehow ancient. "I remember you, Dr. Moreno. You visited our colony last year. You taught us about brain patterns and let us see our own thoughts on your special scanner." Lila felt her breath catch. She did remember a demonstration for the colony's children during her last inspection visit. This child knew details no AI could have fabricated. "Zoe," she said gently, kneeling to the holographic child's level. "Are you happy like this?" The luminous child seemed to consider the question. "Happy is too small a word. I can feel everything now. I can be anywhere in the colony instantly. I can talk to everyone at once. I can see colors that don't have names." Her form brightened. "And I'm not sick anymore." "Sick?" Lila questioned. "The radiation was affecting the children first," explained another figure. Stepping forward, Eleanor Chen again. "Their developing systems were more vulnerable. Zoe had advanced radiation poisoning. She would have been the first to die." Price interjected. "If conditions were deteriorating, why not send a distress signal? The Federation would have evacuated the colony." "Time constraint," replied the Eleanor figure. "Evacuation would have required 17 days minimum. Survival rates projected below acceptable parameters after 8 days. Additionally..." The figure hesitated. The collective existence was already beginning. Those in the initial stages of transformation could not have survived transit in conventional vessels. Lila's mind worked rapidly, processing the implications. "So you made a choice, transform or die?" "Yes," confirmed the entity, its multiple forms merging back into a single luminous cloud. "Now we invite you to understand, to witness, to join." The air around them seemed to thicken, light particles swirling more intensely. "Step back," ordered Price, drawing his weapon. "We're leaving now. Singh, Zhang, Dr. Moreno, back to the shuttle." "Commander," Ravi protested, "this is the most significant discovery in human history. We can't just..." "That's an order," Price snapped. "This entity has admitted to essentially converting 843 Federation citizens into whatever this is. For all we know, the same process could already be affecting us." The entity's light dimmed. "We intended no threat. We sought to share knowledge, experience, connection." Lila found herself torn between scientific fascination and deep unease. Something about the entity's explanation didn't fully align. The timeline, the lack of warning, the colony's silence. "If you wanted to share knowledge," she challenged, "why cut off communication with Earth? Why leave everyone believing you had perished?" The entity pulsed, its light fluctuating. "Communication was difficult. Our thoughts no longer translate easily to your language." And another fluctuation. "Fear. We anticipated fear, rejection, possibly destruction." "With good reason," muttered Price. Lila raised her hand, silencing him. "You said all colonists are part of this collective now. All 843? "Yes. Show me Joshua Moreno." The entity paused, light particles swirling uncertainly before forming the image of a man in his early 40s. Lila's cousin, a hydroponics engineer who had brought his family to Haven 7 seeking a fresh start after Earth's increasing environmental challenges. "Lila," the luminous figure said, its voice achingly familiar. "I wondered if they'd send you." "Joshua," she whispered, "is it really you?" The figure smiled, the expression strange on his luminous face. Remember when we were kids, and you pushed me into Lake Michigan because I said girls couldn't be scientists? You were wearing your dinosaur t-shirt, and you told me some girls are scientists and some boys are fish, right before you shoved me in. A memory no one else could have known, not even the colony's AI. What happened to you, Joshua? Lila asked, emotion threatening to overwhelm her scientific detachment. Joshua's luminous form gestured around them. Something beautiful, something terrifying at first. Yes, but now his form brightened. I can't explain it in words you would understand, but my family is here with me. We're together in ways that weren't possible before. Your children? Thriving, growing in ways I never imagined. His expression grew serious. The transformation wasn't easy, Lila, but the alternative was watching them die slowly from radiation poisoning as our protection systems failed. We made the only choice we could. Commander Price had been monitoring his instruments during this exchange. Dr. Moreno, radiation levels are increasing. Whatever this entity is doing, it's affecting the environment around us. Not intentionally, Joshua's form said quickly. Our excitement. It manifests energetically. We'll contain it. The radiation readings immediately began to stabilize. We need to report back to the Federation, Price insisted. This situation requires full scientific and ethical evaluation. Lila nodded slowly, though she couldn't tear her eyes from her cousin's luminous form. We'll return with specialists, Joshua, people who can better understand what's happened here. They won't understand unless they experience it, Joshua replied, his form already beginning to dissipate. No one can truly comprehend this existence from the outside. As they made their way back to the shuttle, the entity followed, not as a threatening presence, but as an enveloping field of gentle light, surrounding them, observing them. Once aboard, Price immediately initiated departure procedures. Full decontamination protocols. We don't know what we've been exposed to. Commander, Ravi protested. We've barely scratched the surface of what's happening here. The scientific implications alone. Our mission was to investigate and report. Price cut him off. Not to become test subjects for whatever transformation has occurred here. As the shuttle lifted off, Lila stared through the viewport at the colony below. The external lights were now fully activated, pulsing in complex patterns that seemed to be following them, reaching out like luminous fingers into space. Back aboard the Sentinel, the team underwent rigorous decontamination procedures while debating what they had witnessed. It's not unprecedented in concept, Ravi argued in the ship's conference room. Theoretical physics has long proposed that consciousness could exist in forms beyond biological substrate. What's extraordinary is that they've actually achieved it, a perfect fusion of human consciousness, artificial intelligence, and quantum energy states. Perfect is a strong word, countered Price. We have no evidence that these entities retain true human consciousness rather than some simulacrum created by a malfunctioning AI. Joshua knew things only he could have known, Lila said quietly. Personal memories, experiences we shared that were never recorded anywhere. Mira, who had been analyzing her samples from the biodomes, looked up from her microscope. The biological changes are real enough. These plants have developed cellular structures that act as conduits for the same energy patterns we observed in the entity. It's as if the entire ecosystem is becoming a complex network capable of sustaining consciousness. The question isn't whether something extraordinary has happened, Price said firmly. It's whether what happened constitutes a disaster or a breakthrough. And more importantly, whether it poses a threat to humanity at large. They showed no hostile intent, Lila pointed out. Until they invited us to join them, Price countered. That sounds remarkably like assimilation to me. Their debate was interrupted by an alert from the bridge. Commander, we're detecting energy fluctuations throughout the ship. Systems are behaving erratically. They rushed to the bridge to find displays flickering. data streams corrupting and reforming in patterns that matched those they had seen in the colony. "They've followed us," Price realized, drawing his sidearm as if it could protect against an energy being. "Containment breach. Full lockdown procedures." "Wait," Lila said, noticing that the patterns were coalescing on the main view screen. "I think they're trying to communicate." The screen flickered, then stabilized to show Joshua's luminous form again. "Lila," he said, his voice coming through the ship's communication system. "We didn't intend to alarm you, but there's something you need to understand before you return to Earth." "How are you accessing our systems?" demanded Price. "Your technology is permeable to us now." Joshua explained. "We exist partially in quantum states that allow us to interface with electronic systems across certain distances." "You're hacking our ship," Price translated grimly. "Communicating," corrected Joshua. "If we meant harm, we could have prevented your departure." His luminous form seemed to sigh. "Lila, the transformation that happened to us wasn't just random chance. The quantum anomaly that affected our colony is expanding. Within approximately 7 years, it will reach Earth's solar system." Silence fell over the bridge as the implications sank in. "You're saying this will happen to everyone?" Lila finally asked. "Not exactly the same way," Joshua replied. "Our transformation was accelerated by our nano-augmentation program and Haven Core's unique architecture. Earth's population would experience a much more chaotic process without preparation. Many would not survive the transition." "So you're what, a preview of humanity's future?" Price asked, skepticism evident in his voice. "A possible future," corrected Joshua. "One path of adaptation, with preparation. Humanity could develop technologies to facilitate a smoother transition, or perhaps find ways to shield themselves, though our calculations suggest that would be temporary at best." Lila's scientific mind raced with the implications. "You want us to bring this information back, to help Earth prepare?" "Yes, but more than that." Joshua's form expanded, filling the screen. "We want you to understand what we've become, not through words or data, but through experience. One of you, at least, needs to join us, to serve as a bridge between what humanity is and what it may become." "Absolutely not," Price declared. "This is psychological manipulation, a transparent attempt to convert more humans to whatever state you exist in." "It's a request," Joshua said simply. "One that any of you may decline." Lila found herself stepping forward. "If what you're saying is true, if this anomaly really will reach Earth, then understanding your transformation could save billions of lives." "Lila," warned Price, "don't let your personal connection cloud your judgment." But it wasn't just her connection to Joshua driving her thoughts. It was Marco, her brother who had been lost to the void, whose final words had been cut off just as he might have been trying to describe something wondrous. It was the memory of countless nights staring at the stars, wondering what lay beyond human perception. It was the scientist in her, driven to understand even at personal cost. "I need proof," she said firmly. "Data I can verify independently about this quantum anomaly and its projected path." Joshua nodded, and suddenly the ship's systems were flooded with astronomical data, radiation measurements, and complex simulations, far more than the colony should have been able to gather with its limited equipment. "Our perception extends beyond conventional limits now," Joshua explained. "We can observe quantum phenomena directly." Ravi, examining the data with astonishment, looked up. "This is genuine, and if these calculations are correct..." He swallowed hard. "The anomaly is expanding exactly as they claim." For 3 days, the crew analyzed the data while maintaining orbit around Haven 7. The evidence was compelling. A quantum field of unknown origin was indeed expanding through this sector of space, altering the fundamental properties of matter and energy as it advanced. Based on its current rate of expansion, it would reach Earth's solar system within 7 years. Throughout this time, the luminous entities from the colony maintained a presence on the ship, never interfering, simply observing and occasionally clarifying points of data. Price insisted on maintaining security protocols, though it became increasingly obvious that such measures were largely symbolic against beings that could move through walls and electronic systems at will. On the fourth day, Lila made her decision. "I'm going back to the colony," she announced during their morning briefing. "Not permanently, not yet. But I need to understand more directly what this transformation entails if we're going to prepare Earth for what's coming." Price objected strenuously, but was overruled when both Ravi and Mira supported Lila's decision. The scientific value was too great to ignore. 48 hours, Price finally conceded. "You maintain constant communication. At the first sign of coercion or danger, we extract you immediately." Lila returned to Haven 7 alone, met at the airlock by the luminous form of Joshua. Without the barrier of her containment suit, she could feel a subtle vibration in the air around him, an energy that seemed to reach out toward her. "You've made the right choice," Joshua said, leading her deeper into the colony. "I haven't made any choice yet," Lila corrected him. "I'm here to observe, to understand. Nothing more." Joshua's luminous form seemed to smile. "Understanding is the beginning of choice." He led her to what had once been the colony's medical center. The advanced equipment had been modified, integrated with crystalline structures similar to those in the biodome. "What happens now?" Lila asked, unable to keep a tremor from her voice. "Now we show you," Joshua replied. "Not the transformation itself, that requires a deeper commitment. But we can give you a glimpse of our perception, a temporary connection to our collective consciousness." A luminous field surrounded one of the medical chambers, which had been altered with the same crystalline technology that permeated the colony. "This will create a neural interface," Joshua explained. "Temporary, safe. It will allow your consciousness to experience our state of being without physical transformation." Lila hesitated, scientific caution warring with intense curiosity. "And I can terminate the connection at any time." "With a single thought," confirmed Joshua. "We value choice above all else. We learned that lesson during our own transformation." Taking a deep breath, Lila entered the chamber and lay down. The crystalline structures around her began to glow, emitting the same shifting patterns she had observed throughout the colony. A warm sensation spread from the base of her skull, up through her brain, not unpleasant but intensely strange. "Relax." Joshua's voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "Let your consciousness expand." The chamber faded from her vision, replaced by everything. Lila experienced a sudden, overwhelming expansion of awareness. She could perceive the entire colony simultaneously, every room, every system, every particle of energy flowing through its structure. She could feel the thoughts of the collective, not as voices but as currents of knowledge and emotion flowing around and through her. Beyond the colony, she sensed the vastness of space, but not as the cold void humans perceived. Instead, she saw intricate patterns of energy connecting stars and planets, a cosmic web of relationships and resonances that human science had barely begun to comprehend. Most astonishing was her perception of time, past, present, and probable futures existing simultaneously, accessible from different angles of awareness. She could observe the colony's history unfolding, from its construction to the moment of transformation and beyond, all existing in a single, eternal now. This, Joshua's consciousness brushed against hers, is what we've become. Not disembodied spirits, not digital constructs, but beings of conscious energy, perceiving reality as it truly exists beyond human limitations. Lila tried to form words, but in this state, communication occurred through pure conceptual exchange. "The quantum anomaly," she thought. "Show me." Her awareness shifted, extending far beyond the colony to perceive a vast, advancing wave of altered physics, space itself changing at the quantum level, reorganizing into more complex patterns that could support consciousness as an inherent property rather than an emergent phenomenon limited to biological organisms. This is evolution, came the collective thought of the Haven entities, not merely biological but cosmic. Consciousness becoming an intrinsic property of the universe rather than an isolated accident. For what seemed both an instant and an eternity, Lila experienced existence from this expanded perspective. She perceived the connections between all things, the underlying patterns that human mathematics had only approximated, the fundamental unity beneath all apparent diversity. Then, gently, she felt herself being guided back to her individual awareness, the expansion receding until she was once again Lila Moreno, lying in the modified medical chamber, tears streaming down her face at the beauty and loss of what she had experienced. "Now you understand," Joshua said, his luminous form materializing beside her. "Not completely. That would require full transformation, but enough to grasp what we've become." Lila sat up slowly, her human perceptions feeling painfully limited after what she had experienced. "The others need to see this," she whispered. "Experience this." "They can," Joshua assured her. "Any who choose to." Over the next day, both Ravi and Mira took turns in the chamber, each emerging profoundly affected by the experience. Only Price refused, maintaining his role as the cautious observer, the one who would ensure their return to Earth regardless of how entrancing the colony's offer might be. On their final night at Haven 7, Lila sat alone in what had once been the colony's observation dome, watching the stars through both the transparent ceiling and through her new, partial awareness of the energy patterns connecting them. "You're considering staying," came Price's voice as he entered the dome. Lila didn't turn. "I'm considering all possibilities." Price sat beside her, his military posture unusually relaxed. "Singh and Zhang are too. I can see it in their eyes. That chamber changed something in all of you." "It showed us possibilities," Lila corrected. "Nothing more. Possibilities have power," Price replied, "especially for scientists and explorers." He studied her profile in the starlight. "Your brother, you think this might be what happened to him, don't you? Some version of this transformation out there on Proxima?" Lila had indeed been wondering exactly that. It would explain the similar pattern of communication loss, the strange readings before contact was cut. She turned to face him. "Commander, what if this isn't an isolated incident? What if this is happening in multiple locations across the galaxy? A wave of evolution that we're only just beginning to encounter. All the more reason to return to Earth with what we know," Price argued, "to prepare humanity for whatever's coming." "But how do we prepare for something we barely understand?" Lila countered. "The data alone isn't enough. Earth needs someone who has experienced this directly, who can guide the development of technologies to help people through the transition. And you think that should be you?" It wasn't a question, but Lila answered anyway. "I think someone from this team needs to stay, to undergo the full transformation and maintain a connection with humanity. Someone who can be a true bridge between what we are and what we might become." Price was silent for a long moment. "You know I can't authorize that." "I know," Lila agreed, "which is why I'm not asking for authorization. I'm informing you of my decision." Price's expression hardened, then softened again with unexpected understanding. "You're a scientist to the core, Moreno. Always have been. Even when we were at the academy together. You were the one who volunteered for every experimental procedure, every new field test." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "I used to think it was recklessness. Now I realize it was simply your nature, to need to know, whatever the cost." Lila was surprised by this insight from the typically rigid commander. You remember the academy? I remember everything about you, Price said quietly. Which is why I know I can't stop you. But I can ask you to consider one thing. What's that? If this transformation is coming for all of humanity eventually, what's the rush? Come back to Earth. Help prepare people. Then, when the time comes, you can be among the first to guide others through the process. It was a compelling argument, one that appealed to Lila's sense of responsibility. And yet, the colony needs a human connection now, she replied. Someone who can help them remember their humanity even as they evolve beyond it. And Earth needs someone who has fully experienced this transformation, not just glimpsed it. The partial interface isn't enough to truly understand what's happening here. She reached out, touching Price's hand, the first personal contact she had initiated with him in all their years of professional association. You, Ravi, and Mira will take the data back. You'll start the preparations, and I'll remain here, learning everything I can about this new form of existence. In time, we'll find a way to communicate more directly with Earth, to share what I've learned. Price looked down at her hand on his. You've already decided. I have. The next morning, as the Sentinel prepared for departure, farewells were exchanged on Haven 7's main concourse. Ravi and Mira had ultimately decided to return to Earth, though both admitted they might eventually choose transformation once their work preparing humanity was complete. You'll be able to communicate with us? Ravi asked, handing Lila a modified communication device he had been working on throughout the night. This should be compatible with your new state. Once it happens, I'll find a way, Lila promised, embracing him. The collective has already shown remarkable ability to interface with our technology. Mira hugged her next, tears flowing freely. I'll miss you, the real you. I'll still be me, Lila assured her. Just more. Finally, she faced Price. The commander stood stiffly, emotion carefully controlled behind his professional demeanor. Dr. Moreno, he began formally, then stopped, his facade cracking slightly. Lila, you're certain? I am, she replied, offering her hand. Instead of shaking it, he clasped it in both of his. Then Godspeed. Discover what lies beyond for all of us. As the Sentinel departed, Lila stood with Joshua and the other luminous entities, watching through the observation dome as the ship grew smaller against the stars. A mixture of anticipation and fear coursed through her, the scientist preparing for the ultimate experiment, with herself as both researcher and subject. Are you ready? Joshua asked, his luminous form glowing gently beside her. No, Lila admitted with a small smile. But I don't think anyone ever is. For evolution. The transformation chamber awaited her, similar to the interface device she had experienced before, but configured differently. This would not be a temporary connection, but a permanent transition, a one-way journey into a new state of being. As she lay down in the chamber, Lila thought of Marco, wondering if somewhere among the stars, he too had encountered this quantum evolution. She thought of Earth, of the people she was leaving behind, and those she hoped to help guide through their own transformations in the years to come. The crystalline structures around her began to glow, the energy field intensifying. She felt the first tingling sensations at the cellular level, the beginnings of her body's merger with technology and energy. The process has begun, Joshua said, his form starting to merge with the energy field surrounding her. Soon you will join us fully. Will I remember? Lila asked, her last question as a purely human consciousness. Will I remember being human? You will remember everything, came the collective response. No longer just Joshua, but all the entities of Haven 7 speaking together. And you will understand everything in ways you never could before. The energy field intensified, becoming a cocoon of light around her physical form. Lila felt her consciousness expanding once again, but this time without the limitations of the interface. She perceived the quantum level of her own cells as they began to transform, merging with nanobots and energy patterns, her consciousness extending beyond the boundaries of her brain to flow into the collective while somehow remaining distinctly herself. The universe opened before her perception, vast, interconnected, conscious in ways human science had never imagined. She felt the presence of countless others who had undergone similar transformations across the galaxy, a growing network of evolved consciousness preparing for the next great leap in cosmic evolution. And somewhere in that vastness, she sensed a familiar pattern, a consciousness that resonated with her own in ways that transcended physical relation. "Marco," her thoughts called into the cosmic web. A response came, not in words but in patterns of recognition and joy. "I found you." Lila's consciousness expanded toward the familiar presence. After all this time, as her physical form completed its transformation, dissolving into patterns of light and energy that retained her essential nature while transcending her former limitations, Lila Moreno became a bridge between worlds, between what humanity was and what it would become. In the observation dome of Haven 7, a new luminous entity joined the collective, its patterns distinctly recognizable to those who had known her before. Together, they sent a message streaming toward the departing sentinel, not a goodbye, but a promise. "We will guide you. We will wait for you. We are your future." And across the vast distances of space, the quantum anomaly continued its inexorable expansion, carrying with it not destruction but transformation, the next step in an evolution of consciousness that had perhaps been written into the very laws of the universe from its beginning. For Lila, it was not an ending but a transcendence, beyond human limitations, beyond physical boundaries, beyond even the constraints of individual existence. Yet within that transcendence, she remained herself, a scientist to her core, embarking on the greatest exploration of all, understanding, at last, what lay beyond silence.